Hi, Christina. So very pretty rocky. Love the color. All right, so this is your flat walk, and that's a pretty good speed for your flat walk. There, his head is starting to get a little bit low, and he starts to get heavy on his front end, but the speed was good. A little bit better with his head, so I don't like it when he gets it too low because he's getting a little bit more strung out and on his front end. And you're very soft with your hands. You're a very nice rider, good body position and all of that. There he just went to pacing, which I know you caught. The rein length is not bad. I would go a little bit shorter just so you can half halt and adjust him quicker when he starts changing speed. And then you won't have to pull your hands all the way back, because as you pull them all the way back, you're also getting close to tapping him by accident. So if you have a little bit shorter rein until we get the gait more consistent, it'll just help you more. We always want to be soft in their mouth, but we also have to communicate with them so they understand. And he's back and forth with a decent, like there he was better, headset versus he gets a little too low and heavy on his front end and strung out. So there's a difference between when we're riding them being relaxed, but also being relaxed and using their hindquarters and driving off of their back end. So again, body position, you're good. Your shoulders are back. You're looking where you're going. Your arm height is pretty good. Your heel is underneath your hip. So very pretty rider. I would just have the reins just a couple of inches shorter. And then I would be ready at any time that he starts to speed up too much to just give a half halt on the rein. And that means to squeeze and hold a tight fist with your fingers. And then once he slows down, then to release. Right now, because the reins are long, when he speeds up, you're picking your arms up and it's a big movement and it's not as quick. And horses understand, the quicker you correct them, the more they're going to understand what they're supposed to do. So there you're having to pick your hands way up to try to get him back into the speed, and you'll see he hasn't really changed that much. Speed for the flat walk is good. I would just like him, again, driving off that back end more. So you probably taught him to how to put his head down, but I would have him a little bit more on the vertical, more contact, and you're trying to feel him thrusting off of his hindquarters. You should feel kind of the saddle lift up a little bit up underneath you, versus he's kind of pulling more with his front legs than driving off his back legs, and then it becomes very easy. That's a little bit better headset, but actually got it down too low. But he finds it very easy to switch to that pace because he's already got weight on that front end. Okay, there you're picking up the speed, and you said you were going towards the saddle gate. So it looks like you start out pretty well. You got just that little jiggle in the saddle. I like it. I like his headset a little bit better here. You're still doing good. So they change a little bit in the terrain as you're going around. So the gaits can look a little bit different in spots, and then they might try to pace or trot in different spots depending on the terrain and if it's going uphill or downhill. So some of the times he's a little bit more lateral, and occasionally he'll go a little bit more towards the trotty side, but he's not trotting, at least not yet. So I think you're doing a good job. And it looks like you were turning his head to help him get a little bit more lateral. So if that's not what you were doing, just let me know. And once you correct him, you can raise his head up, which was fine, having your hands up, and then just bring him back down. And just, I know you're videotaping, but otherwise when he's doing it correctly, stop and rewarding him. But I thought that was a very nice saddle gait. So when you go to start in your saddle gait, he starts off not so good, and then you correct him. But what I would try to do is get it, I would always try to go through their flat walk in the beginning to get it. I would get him framed up a little bit more. He's not bad here, but I'd have a little bit more frame, a little bend, and then ask him for the flat walk. Get your flat walk going good, and then from there do the same thing. Frame him up, a little bend, and then ask him for a little bit more speed. Because the way he's going through it, you're just nice, and then you ask for speed, but he starts going towards that pace, and then you're correcting him. So you'd rather not have that pace at all. So you got a good saddle gait there. I'd lower your hands just a little. So I'd have your hands come down a little bit here. Again, if you're keeping it up because he's getting on the trotty side, pick him up, but then lower your hands back down. Because you want to have your hands where you can comfortably ride on the trail. But there he's going a little bit more trotty. He's a nice horse though. So here, as you're speeding him up, I would just have more contact. I'd have a little bit more bend in your elbow and be ready to half halt with the hand just a little bit lower. Because as you went, you'll see he started going a little bit more towards the trot. Let me do that one again. Speeding him up, then he starts getting more towards the trot just because your contact's not there. You're being very soft with your hands, which is nice. Being very soft with your hands, but if you had just a little bit more contact, he would have more guidance on what he was supposed to do. And then your corrections will be more minor than obvious. And then I would just try to get him, once you have that gait and you're keeping it, to bring his nose in a little bit and see if you can get him in a slightly better frame. That doesn't mean today. It doesn't mean in 2 weeks. It could be in a month. But we're trying to get them in time that they gait in a better frame, in a little bit rounder frame, that he's in a little bit rounder frame versus his nose is poked out so far and he looks a little strung out. So it depends on your preference. I'm always trying to get them engaged and a better frame so they're not putting as much pressure on their stifles, their hocks, and their SI joints. If they stay kind of inverted or strung out, it puts more stress on those areas. But otherwise, I think you've done a great job. You're doing really good. Just ride with more contact, a little lower handset, and try to ride him through the gait smoothly versus having him kind of go into it and then correcting it. Try to get one gait into the next and then into the next and slowly smooth it out, always preparing them ahead of time. So bringing his head down, a little bend, and then asking him to go seems like it'll work pretty well with him. All right, if you have questions, let me know.